Hey there, film fans. I am Jeff.
I am Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll discuss movies both new and old with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid any lazy negativity, we are making this a drinking game. Any negative criticism about a film is absolutely allowed, but you will be called out for it, and you will have to take a drink every time. That goes for us, goes for you at home. This is a drinking game.
He's very adamant this is a drinking game. So if you hear this sound, that means someone's negative and you have to drink. Then pour yourself a glass, join us, give it up for the films we love and perhaps the films we need some love, that needs some love. I'm drunk already. Sorry, fellas. Let's just go. What are we doing, Jeff?
Guys, so excited that we're back for week 6 of our Corona franchise face-off. That's right. We are living in the age of the coronavirus. Side note, that is why my audio is not fantastic. John and Dave decided to bring their audio equipment with them. I did not. Whoops. So I apologize for the quality of my audio. Anyway, this is the Corona era, and so we decided to do a franchise face-off where we were going to come up with the best franchises or trilogies to watch, to binge watch, and we were going to rank them up against each other. We seeded our favorite 16. Lord of the Rings was our 1 seed. It did advance along with The Godfather, Star Wars, Toy Story, John Wick, and Back to the Future. Nope, I just lied. And Star Trek have all advanced. Is that the first fucking... Anyway, and today we have 2 more fantastic film franchises to go on and on about. But first, I'm going to kick it over to John for some shout-outs.
All right, as usual, we want to throw a big thank you to our beer sponsor, Carlos Barroso. We do not have his beers in our hands. Once again, I am very sad about it. So many tears. Give him a follow on Instagram at C Barroso Bar 2019. That's CBARROZOBAR 2019. And as always,
the first time we have those beers back, I'm going to be so negative.
Oh my God. Dude. I know, I just cannot wait. I miss them so much. He keeps sending me all these great pictures of all the beers that he was saving for us, drinking them, making them. Anyway, Carlos, we miss you. We miss your brews. Hope you're doing well, brother. And as always, the music you hear at the beginning, middle, end, throughout, all the music on this episode and every episode here on The Love of Cinema is by the artist Dasein. That is Dasein, Dasein. Go check them out at soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist. All right, let's
Is it backslash? I think it's slash, man. I think it's a /.
Is it backslash, the tilted one? And
But it goes
regular
forward.
dash?
Well, they're both fucking tilted. I mean,
One's a dash, and there's 2
the
slashes.
horizontal one
There's
is a regular
slash,
dash.
a backslash.
That's-
Man,
that's a dash.
this is horseshit.
I thought the
Also,
dash...
look in
parental
the description.
Yeah, you will
Parental
find it. It'll
advisory,
be
Get the
in the
right
everybody.
slash in there.
There's a
Even though we're
motherfucking
talking about-
parental advisory on this motherfucking
Well, we're talking about a
podcast.
very family-friendly franchise, and I just want people to know, especially if you're one of my boy students who's 8 years old.
One of them is a family-friendly franchise. The other is the opposite of that.
Wait, they never say yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker in the Harry Potter series? I swear. All right.
I feel
Dave.
like McGonagall implied it at one point.
Oh my gosh. Dave,
Yeah.
why don't you introduce the films for this week?
All right, so in this bracket, we're putting Harry Potter, the entire franchise, up against the Die Hard franchise.
Let's be clear. Not the... please tell me you're not including the
Fantastic
the
Beasts.
Eddie Redmayne.
Shit, yeah, no. Just 1
No,
through 8.
No, we're
Books
not
1 through
including
7.
this.
Movies
No
1 through 8.
spin-off money grabs.
Sorry, Eddie.
How are they going to make 5? That story has no more legs. They've sawed both their legs off. It
Honestly,
cannot possibly last.
you're
for
totally
very
right.
They're thanking God for the coronavirus so they can rewrite this thing one more time.
Giving it a shot. Seriously,
Dave-
no, you're totally
Dave
right.
just said the Harry Potter franchise and Warner Brothers are thanking God for the coronavirus. Also, shout out, I'm drinking Corona Extra in honor of the coronavirus.
Yeah, I
all right,
appreciate
everybody,
it.
we are going to talk about our 6th seed first. Our 6th seed is Harry Potter. And I wanted to make it very clear at the top here, as we start talking about this, that this is in context with compared to other franchises, not as a pure comparative, right? So we're going to talk for a little bit about Harry Potter. It's not just about Harry Potter. There's enough Harry Potter content out in the world right now. The way we are going to be discussing it is more or less, what is it like watching all 8 movies? How does the artistry, what they wanted to accomplish, the filmmaking, etc. How does it make you feel? How rewatchable is it, right? Is it as rewatchable as our 1C Lord of the Rings, for instance? So that is going to be sort of our jumping off point. We can go in a million different directions. Does anybody have an itch to kick this off? Besides talking about how there's one significant crossover into our other franchise, which is the angel above us right now, Alan Rickman. Oh my God.
Yeah. I was thinking earlier today
we'll start with that. Shout out to Alan Rickman.
You will never hear a buzzer associated with Alan Rickman.
My God.
The man is brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best. So I guess we're going to have to be a little careful that we don't slip into talking about the Harry Potter, just the story and the books. And we are talking about the movies, right, you guys? The way we did with Lord of the Rings. Like, the world. Yeah,
but the way you say that, you make me nervous as shit.
No, but we're like, the way we were talking about Lord of the Rings, we're going to be discussing Harry Potter the same way. So all three of us are big fans of the books, I think, as well. And we love like the world and everything. But for this conversation, we are talking about the movies only, right?
You're scaring me, John.
Mm-hmm.
You make me nervous.
No, I mean, let's just jump right in. How did you guys see these in the theater, or did you for some reason not watch them when they came out? Did you read the books before you saw the movies?
I didn't. I read the books after I saw the movies.
Me too.
I waited for the entire I got, I think, 5 movies in. I'm like, I'm gonna have to read these books and find out, what the story itself is and whether it holds up on that end. And I didn't. I made a almost a pact with myself not to read them until the story was done on film, because I didn't want spoilers. I didn't want anything to be sitting there going, oh, they didn't miss that, they didn't include that, they didn't include that. And so I didn't read the books until afterwards.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
To the horror of my friends.
I did. I had read the first 4, and then before the 8th movie, or 7 Part 2, I reread all the books and then kept going where I'd stopped. So I read 5 and 6 and 7 before watching 8, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I think, all right, so I guess I kind of wanted to come at it from that angle because I did the same thing. And I think that is the best way to really talk about if movies that are adapted from books hold up. These movies are great. Like, everyone, there's another quest tale, another hero's journey. Obviously J.K. Rowling definitely took a lot of influences from other really famous fantasy works, Lord of the Rings. So, yep, I'm drinking.
Wait, you're saying Dumbledore and Gandalf are completely different, or what?
I mean, we can start with that. Hey, I have a lot of respect for her.
Are they different?
I have a lot of respect for her. For Dumbledore's my favorite character, and I like the moral and ethical ambiguity that she brings to Dumbledore. When you're done with that whole fucking show, sorry folks, there are going to be spoilers in this. If you haven't seen Harry Potter yet, crawl out of your fucking rock and go turn these movies on.
He's a wizard.
Jesus Christ. When you find out at the end through Snape's, his tears, when he finally gets to see the memory, and you finally realize that Dumbledore, that motherfucker, knew the entire time that Harry was going to have to kill himself. And Snape is like, so you're basically raising him to be killed, like when the time is right. And the answer is yes, obviously. So I like that there was, unlike Gandalf, who completely operates on that typical, the fantasy, positive virtue, hope. Gandalf mentions all the time about hope. Dumbledore has this knowledge, and he always knows more than everyone else, and he is manipulating the entire world around him, including our protagonist, Harry Potter, to one day be slaughtered. He knew he was going to have to sacrifice him one day. So I do respect that there are differences that are strong enough for this world and these movies and the books and everything to stand alone, even though everyone loves to jokingly compare them to Lord of the Rings. Do you guys agree with that, or do you feel like you're watching a lot of imitations and different characters and different archetypes and stuff?
I mean, it's a famous anecdote that there are no original stories. I mean, that's not entirely true. We've seen some really original stuff come out in cinema lately, in the last, I want to say, 5 to 10 years. But in this case, I think they took a familiar trope, or she took a familiar trope and made it her own, and went where it took her.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't think she's duplicating. If anything, she's building on what came before.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, dude. So just real fast, because I want to kick it to you guys about this, since 2 out of 3 of us had that same exact situation. Jeff, you said you did read the books first, right?
I had read the first 4
Okay.
then watched the movies, and I just didn't read 5 and 6 because they were long, and I thought I don't know why.
Okay,
But
so
but then before the final movie, I had reread all the books.
So I had not read the books, and I remember just like everyone else, we all went to go see them with your families, your friends, and stuff. Maybe you saw it more than once, and all my family members and friends who had read the books really fucking loved it, and they were pretty satisfied with the adaptations. I remember not being able to follow the story as well as I wanted to, having not read the books. I don't know if you guys felt that way, but I remember thinking, I didn't know what I was missing, but I had a hunch that there was a lot of information that wasn't in the adaptations, and it felt a little clunky to me. Of course, I read the books eventually, and it's fine. I know all the details now. I know what they don't put in there, but I remember thinking before I had read those that it did not click with me as standalone movies the way it was clicking with the fans who knew every detail. Do you guys feel like that's true?
I can agree with that. I've exactly the same note here.
Yeah.
It relies on the books in the early films in particular. It relies on the books to fill in the blanks.
Okay, so tell me.
Like when for instance, when I watched the first movie, I didn't even realize that was over an entire school year until the second time I watched it.
Yeah.
They didn't
Really?
do Passage of Time. Yeah, they
There's
didn't
like
do
a-
it well
there's
at all.
a- there's always
And
a
holidays. They always do it with holidays.
There's always a Christmas moment because they always got released at Christmas, so I knew
And
that.
there's usually Halloween of some kind, even if it's just decoration. They try to let you know that.
Yeah, they didn't really.
All right.
Telegraph
So-
that well.
So here's
They always
go
talk
and
about
drink that.
finals. They always say there's finals at the end.
So here's my
Yeah.
biggest criticism with these movies. I'm going to kick it off and tell you if you guys agree with this. I do not understand why they did not copy Lord of the Rings and make extended versions. They tried to jam all of the book. They still ended up leaving out a good amount of information. I'm not trying to contradict myself, but it feels like they try to jam everything into somewhere between 220 and like 240. Those are like the average length of these movies. And I just don't
Yeah, I mean,
understand
I don't know
why
if-
they don't have extended versions, and
I don't know if
they
they
should have
needed
got it.
extended versions. I don't think it was they left stuff out of the books. I think it was just shoddy screenwriting in the first couple.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, there are some
I
big
mean-
story elements. Hermione's whole movement with freeing the elves, the whole issues in the last 3 books when the kids start learning about the prejudice and racism against the goblins, and like all the history. There's huge things that would have increased the character development that I really appreciated in the books because it gave you something other than the plot to learn about how they were developing as young people, as young adults. And they're not in the movies at all. It's just straight plot in the movies. And I just don't understand. I know I would have bought those extended versions. I feel like they would have been able to make a killing. They had the kids at the right ages. So that's my only general negative criticism about these movies is that I think they feel a little clunky, especially the first few, Dave, because they are trying to fit as much in as they can. Hit me with that buzzer.
So funny, I do disagree. I stand on. I would honestly, I would think about this all week. I might reseed this up to my number 2 seed this series. And it's number 1. It's world building for whatever reason. And the hardest part about 1 and 2, I didn't find the plot clunky, but I guess I don't know exactly what you mean because I was never unsullied, so to speak. Like I always was familiar enough. And I mean, especially the first one, like Chris Columbus. Can you imagine introducing every single thing? Every single thing is introduced in the first book. In fact, that's the only negative criticism I would have about the movies, and I've eaten shit over this for the years. Is they didn't do what Game of Thrones did better than in any series ever, which is they plant seeds that aren't going to blossom for seasons. And my prime example, which again I eat a lot of shit for, is how was Cedric Diggory the most popular kid in school, and we had no idea who the fuck he was until year 4?
There's a lot of
How did
things
he
like
not-
that. Yeah.
How did they not bump into him in the hallway? That's the only. Honestly, that's it. Otherwise, I like Harry. You're like, great.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's a little one, you still get one.
But to get away from that, I think the thing that sells this story, and the story in 1, for instance, all of a sudden it's like, okay, can we just get to the villain? Can we get to Harry confronting the villain? Can we get to that? We know the conflict's looming, but obviously it's going to be a series-wide conflict, and this is a movie. It's like it doesn't do what Game of Thrones does, which is like, oh, don't worry, Daenerys' dragons need to grow up, so get over it. It'll happen later. Like in this, you need a plot. You need it to come to fruition, and the end always leaves you a little bit loose. So there's a before and after for me, which is always the first three and then the next four, and you can tell just by the book something happened where she doubled the lengths of the books and went in depth. It's almost like she didn't really know that the story could be what it was. Whereas George R. R. Martin, when he wrote the first Game of Thrones book, was like, this is what is going down. This is the next 30, 40 years of my life.
Do you think she did that? Okay, so every time I bring this up, because again, I read these books for the first time. This is crazy, but I didn't read them until last year. I'd read the first one much younger, and I just didn't read them anyway. So I finally went down that hole last year, and I talked with a lot of friends about it who were huge Harry Potter fans, and they all immediately, whenever I say what you just said, Jeff, they all immediately come back with, yes, but that's why they're so good, because you get to grow up with Harry. And they get longer and more complex as you grow up with Harry.
That is the best part about the series. That's the best part. It's like Boyhood. Everything you want out of Boyhood, you get in a fictional series with Harry Potter.
Yeah. I remember thinking I was very jealous that I did not read them when I was younger and get to... It didn't feel the same reading them as a man in his 30s as I probably would have felt reading them as a younger person who was getting
cool.
to grow up.
It was really cool.
But
I really thought it was Hermione for like 7 years.
I know, everybody did. Nobody fucking knew that.
Why would I have known that was Hermione? Why would I have known that?
Here's
the first time they just give me a guide like of how to pronounce this shit.
I do like that J.K. Rowling wrote the screenplay with Steve Kloves. He definitely had I think he was at the helm mostly, but she was there with him. So that's pretty cool that somebody who was that famous, for writing something like this.
She did not write the screenplay.
Did he only write them by himself? I still feel like she consulted.
She approved it.
Yeah, she consulted.
Of course, she
with
approved
him,
it.
for sure.
She didn't even have anything to do with casting until after they said this is our favorites, and then she called them. But she didn't actually have much to do with the movies at all because she hadn't finished the books yet, and she didn't want the film to cloud her mind. So she gave script approval, production approval, sets, costumes, all that kind of such, and then backed away.
Man. Are there elements in the movies that you think are better than the books?
Ooh, good question.
As they go on,
I
yes.
actually
the second one.
Go ahead, Dave.
As they go on, like once you get to like Goblet of Fire and stuff, certain things that they included started for me outshining the books. I mean, they still leave some things out, but the movies really find their ground and start to stand on their own.
Yeah.
From like 3 onwards.
I agree, especially when you get to David Yates' films, the last 3.
Yeah.
Last 3 or 4.
I mean, Alfonso did a really good job in 3. So Alfonso Cuarón directed 3. Chris Columbus, just to be clear, Chris Columbus, the director of Home Alone and Mrs. Doubtfire, in many ways was the perfect choice for this. And I have a quote from Daniel Radcliffe where he was talking about Chris Columbus. And what he said is Chris Columbus got the enthusiasm out of the younger actors better than anybody could have because he was on set. He was so cheerful. He was so joyous. And you're shooting 9 months. And a lot of these kids that gave up their school life, so you're going to have sad days, 11-year-olds who haven't seen their friends in months, who have to do like interviews with magazines and stuff while they're filming this. And so the enthusiasm that Chris Columbus got, it was great. But you find the faults in the books which are not many of them. But ultimately it's like, really, that's the trap that you set for the Sorcerer's Stone. It's like a chess game. No, I'm serious though, really. And what's funny is when you're reading the books, you're just so excited to be on Harry's journey. You're like, oh God, I hope it works out. And really, like, all right, yeah, it's so, come on, really, Devil's Snare. Like, whoever's gonna know isn't gonna know. Like, oh, Devil's Snare, you relax or you shine light. Like, these people can apparate. Like, of course they're gonna be able to figure that out if they're real brilliant wizards. So, the best part about the movies moving forward is how the filmmakers aged not just the characters but the story and how they made it subtle enough that when you're watching them in sequence they didn't course correct. So even Alfonso, he did a brilliant job. There's no sunlight really in any of his movies, right? Where you get to the David Yates, it's even darker, right? Yeah. But if they just did that out of the blue, the tree in the second one with Ron's car was a little cartoonish. With Alfonso, it's almost like a human being. It's almost like an actual villain character. So he like nudged everything along. 4 was directed by Mike Newell, and 4 might be the best movie. I don't know. A lot of people think it's the best movie.
It's one of my favorites.
It's probably my favorite, and they get the benefit of having the other schools there, and they have tasks, so you can follow the timeline and the story and the conflict, and then of course it ends with the amazing scene where Voldemort comes to life. That was an awesome villain introduction too. The end of that film. Yeah. So
Like
so
that,
really
and
so
it's
I think
like,
it's the
yeah,
best.
happy
I think it's
school
the
year,
best
and
book as
Yeah.
well.
and then
finish-
yeah, we're gonna kill some people.
to finish my point really quick, the one thing that I think the movies do better is the books. It's almost like book 5. They say, okay, wait, this is where Harry's pubescent, and then he's just angry the whole book. Ron getting jealous of Harry for 4, it just doesn't click really. For some reason in the movie, the way that it all segues from 1 to 8, I think that they do a really, really good job in the movies. Maybe even
Also-
better in the books. It's hard to
also,
compete
okay,
with that, but it works for me.
A quick formula I go by if you're going to sit down and watch this with your kids is pretty much it's appropriate for audiences of about how old Harry Potter appears -2.
Yeah, it's too bad too because
And
ultimately
because
they
it does
didn't
get
skip
more
that many
intense as it
years.
goes in. But it gets more intense as
1
it
to
goes
2.
in. Like, yeah,
Chamber of Secrets, he's 15 years old looking.
I think
He
that-
goes from 11 to 15.
Yeah, the beginning of what is it? The beginning of 5 or 6, where Voldemort's having that meeting and that woman is levitating, the teacher, and he's holding her
Oh,
in the
that's-
Cruciatus curse, and
mhm.
she's like being
5, it's
tortured.
gotta be
Like,
5.
yeah, I think that's number 5. So one thing about these, first, so yeah, let me throw my little 2 cents in there. I really respect and I really appreciate, and it's mostly David Yates' films that get to do this. It's not just because I like his films the most, I think, but it's not just because I like him. He had the last several films, and I really love how he handles the wand action. Like, I like their battling. I like the way they battle. Like the very end of the whole fucking thing when it's just Harry and Voldemort in the courtyard versus, I think in the book it ends in the main room and everyone is surrounding them in like a circle.
Mhm.
I like that it's
Yeah.
lonely. I like how that class, I can't remember what they call it, but when the wands meet,
Yeah.
that whatever that word is, I like how they showed that.
Fun fact about those two: depending on what spell they're casting, the wand outputs a different texture.
Oh yeah, yes,
Cool.
yes. That's very good. Which is, and it's very different than Jeff. I kind of wanted to ask you about this. Here's a little side note, listeners. I remember you told me about this one time, and I thought it was interesting. I'm curious if you thought about it this week. That you did not enjoy how the magic looked in the world of Harry Potter movies. Like it looked too. I think you said the word mechanical. Do you still feel that
Yeah,
way?
it's funny. Yes, but no. It's weird this time watching it. So yes, what I've said in the past is that they make magic make too much sense in the movies. So it's almost like it could be done by robotically.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'll give an example.
With the opening of
when
Diagon
they go-
Alley
when
at
they
number
enter-
1.
When they open to Diagon
Yeah.
Alley and they click the bricks, and the bricks just
Yeah,
like
like
it's almost
yeah.
like they're doing a game of Jenga or something. They're like click, 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 click. And
Mhm.
I was like, I pictured magic to be a little bit more seamless than that. Oh, the elevator sequence, the elevator being
Yeah.
so rigidy, like
Why?
when they go to the Ministry
Yeah,
of Magic.
why would
and
it
they
be
go
like
down there.
that? Yeah.
And it's like I know that it needs to fit to the. For me, watching it this time, it was more so that it seemed like they needed it to be that way to make sense that it was in London and not just in an ethereal like in Brigadoon, basically. So it worked better for me this time. But yes, that has in the past magic to me.
just-
It's like
just
if
to
I
pick you
want
up on the
something to appear,
elevator
it just
one.
appears. I don't need something to transform into something like as if a science experiment.
Does it
made
feel-
happen.
does
I
it
want it to be
feel-
surreal?
Does it feel gimmicky to you sometimes? Like there are some like the wand stuff. Like I said, there are some of the magic that I like even more than the books, and I think that they visually. We're talking about movies, so of course it's all about how they translate this stuff cinematically. Some of the stuff I think works better than the way she described it in the book, and some of the stuff I totally agree with you. It kind of feels like a visual movie gimmick, just so they can go on the elevator ride, as opposed to it just
Yeah.
happening. And then you think about
And that's in
Game of Thrones or
I mean,
Lord of the Rings,
I
where
took
they
it with
use,
in particular the elevator. You keep using the example. I took it as the Ministry of Magic is
Yeah.
living so much in the past they haven't updated a thing.
That's good too. And yeah, I'm starting to pick up more on that this time. And part of the reason that I upped this to my 2 seed, whereas I kind of was in favor of ranking it where it is now, which is our 6 seed, is the rewatchability. I really thought the more I would see it, the more I would be like, this could be the last time I do this. I don't need to do this again. And that's not the case for me. And I think the
Yeah.
rewatchability is very, very high. And it's not in a childish way because you get into like little tiny snippets. For me, Lupin, not
God,
serious.
I love
For
him,
me,
dude.
Lupin especially.
He is
It's
so
like
good.
he drops these lines, like the one line that killed me in the books, which does a really good job in the movie, is Dumbledore basically when he's Gandalf the White at the end after Harry dies and he has to go back to life, and he just says and he says the line, "Where are you? We're in King's Cross Station." Anyway, he says the line. He's like, "Just because it's happening in your head doesn't make it not real." So those kind of lines hit me, and going back, there are more and more of them. They're just more subtle. A lot of them are serious. So it's like you roll your eyes every time they say like, "Oh, you look like your dad," but you have, "Oh, my mother's eyes, I know." And it's like you roll your eyes a little bit at that. It's like, okay, well, they have to do this, so at least I think they're self-aware. So to what you're saying about like, is it gimmicky? It was in the first movie or two, and I think they knew it was, and I think they were very self-aware about it, and they eased their way out of it brilliantly, so that by the final movie, there's no gimmick. And I think the reason that the seventh part two, the last movie, has the highest rating, not necessarily the one that I want to watch again, but like the highest rating, is because all of the pieces, it did seem like everything was leading up to it, as opposed to, I'll use Star Wars for an example. It's like, this has to fucking end. Like, I really felt like they brilliantly got everything there, and I don't know how they could have done it better.
And all the threads were closed too. Like almost everyone's story was wrapped up. Everyone got their hero moment. Yeah.
I think that's what. Yeah.
Dave, what about Sorry, Jen.
No, just really quickly. I think you're right. I think one reason why the magic seems more the emotional stakes of the characters are much higher as the movies go on. So when magic gets used in the latter movies, it's usually in defense. It's not opening Diagon Alley for the first time and watching the bricks move. It's fucking Dumbledore swirling fire around that fucking lake so that he can save Harry from those things. I mean, like you don't have the capacity emotionally as an audience member not to be invested in the necessity of the magic. And so I didn't care at all that it turned into a huge spectacle in the last 2, 3, 4 movies. It was totally justified. Maybe that's part of it as well, that it's not just because you're watching magic. I don't know.
I'm gonna pass it to Dave in a second, but what I would say is regarding the spin-offs, that's what you want to see more of. Harry was not capable of doing the things that Dumbledore and Voldemort did with the swirling of the glass and the water and such. So how is it when you do a spin-off, you don't address that? You don't say, okay, this is what the big boy magicians do. This is what the big boy wizards do.
Thank you for saying that.
Why do you just say,
thank you?
Why do you do a spin-off where it's just like, hey, by the way, reminder, in the Fantastic Beasts, it's all Eddie Redmayne's fault. Really, he just lets all the animals loose and then he tries to catch them and wrap them up, and that's the plot of the first movie. What the fuck? Show us what the big boys are doing.
Dude,
Dave,
you're totally right. Thank you. All right,
so stupid.
Dave, get ready with the buzzer, because I will say that is the only thing that confused me. It almost seemed like Dumbledore and the big boys, Grindelwald and the spinoffs, Grindelwald, whatever how you fuck you pronounce it. It almost seems like magic, that they have this other level of knowledge of the technique and the craft of magic that no one ever discusses. Like, how do you learn how to do what they do, or is it just they're born with it?
I don't know.
She never goes into detail on the differences in the level. That is the only thing that frustrates me, and it's very apparent in the movies. Yep.
I'm going to buzz you for that, but
it's very
even though we're not
apparent in
meant to
the
be
movies.
talking about these movies.
No, but you're right. I think it's even more apparent in the movies than when you're reading it. I didn't think about that very much when I was reading it, but it is very noticeable in the book. I mean, in the movies, where you're like, how the fuck do they just know how to do that?
You thought they would get there by 7, Game of Thrones. You thought that the dragons would grow up by 7. It didn't. Harry, okay, he can kill and he can Expelliarmus Voldemort. Great, but can he make glass swirl? And he didn't get there, which is fine. I'm not going to fault them for that. I'm just saying, if you have to address that in the spin-off.
Especially since
that's the only loose end they didn't close up.
No, especially because she almost does it with a few different skills. Like she makes a huge deal over the Patronus charm,
where you can,
which is
and you don't have to say it. You can think it, like that kind of stuff. They kind of hinted.
But when he's doing,
Dave, let's kick.
In the real fast, we'll pass it to Dave. In the Dumbledore army sequence in number 5, when he's teaching everyone how to do Patronus and Expecto Patronum and the Stupefy and all the basic charms, and then they go face off against what are they called? Where they go into the
Dementors?
Not the Dementors.
The Death Eaters?
Yeah, the Death Eaters. When they go finally fight them at the end of 5 in the storage place, and they get the prophecy, and they're using these like beginning level things against these people, and I kind of was thinking,
Expelliarmus.
yeah. I mean, the whole fucking movie, the whole entire series comes down. Here's one for the movies. I'm going to give it up to the movies. Like I said, the charms, I think, are better in the movies. This whole fucking book series ends with Harry doing Expelliarmus, or how the fuck you say it, on Voldemort. And they still ultimately do have that wand fall out, like fly out. He doesn't say the words Expelliarmus. I like how it's him and them doing on the courtyard, him and Voldemort. And it's the huge wand battle, and then it comes out. Because she just fucking ends it with him saying Expelliarmus. Anyway, Dave, get in there.
I know, Dave. I've been talking about how the depth ages. I think the effects do too. The effects get off to a rocky start in one, especially the way they fly. What do you think about it? Do you forgive it because they grow through the series? Like, how do you feel about that?
I do. I mean, it is a bit of a culture shock going back to the first ones and watching, the Quidditch matches and stuff like that. And it's like, well, this is very obviously CG.
It looks like
somebody on a set can do that with some
It looks like the fight in the second Matrix, right?
Yeah.
Same year Lord of the Rings 1 comes out. Same year Lord of the Rings 1 comes out.
But yeah, you do forgive it, and you do forgive it because, again, it's what filmmakers do. They learn as they go along, and it was a lot of the time it was similar effects teams working on these. They learn new procedures, they learn new techniques. They managed to get, to where they did with like giant fucking swirls of fire, and it looks awesome. So yeah, I do forgive them for that, and I think it's like when you watch the original Star Wars and then like watch the prequels straight after it. I mean, if you're saying they exist this week.
Yeah.
But like the culture shock of like, where did all this technology go?
Yeah. Which one is y'all's favorite movie?
4.
I go 4 than 3.
Goblet of Fire.
John?
4 than 3. That's good. It's Alfonso's is probably one of them. Although, his is the shortest. Did you guys know that?
Great.
I'm pretty sure his is the tightest. I really love that book. I think 4 was my favorite book, but I really enjoyed reading 3. First time you get to meet Sirius and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know, dude. There's something about those David Yates films. I was telling this earlier to my friend. There are 2 reasons why I want to know this for you guys too. For me, there are 2 reasons, and they're specific, why I usually go back and take the Harry Potter journey, why I want to go on this quest again. And it's either the first one, which is the first couple movies, where I want that, you said it, Christopher Columbus, what Daniel Radcliffe said, that enthusiasm of just the young naivete of getting to learn about the world of Hogwarts and Harry Potter, and the fact that it's not truly a secondary world because it still exists on Earth. It's not a made-up place. It's still real. And then the other reason is, as I get older, I find myself wanting to go back to this world because of these movies the most. I want to see the young adults alone, like Frodo and Sam in 5, 6, and 7, and 8, where they are on their own hunting Horcruxes, and it's sad, and there's melancholy, and there's stakes through the roof, and there's so much consequence to everything they do. What is it? Is it the end of 4 where Hermione says to Harry, "Nothing's ever going to be the same again, is it?" And he's like, "No, it isn't." And so there's like that. The whole story for me, especially in the movies, is like neatly divided into 1 through 3 and most of 4 until Cedric dies, and then Cedric's death to the end. Do you guys, do y'all feel the same way? Like, why do you usually come back to these movies?
The world.
Yeah.
And I like the characters, but the world more so than that.
Nice. Just in general, you come back to the world? Like you just want the whole thing? Is there any movie that you do you ever start out of order? Do you ever just go for one out of order? Or do you always start with 1?
It's mood, though. It's mood-based. It's different. I wanted 6 recently. I just really wanted to see 6.
Oh my God, Half-Blood Prince.
The book ending is better, but I love it. We're running out of time.
I had a list of reasons why I come back to this, but we have run out of time. We're well over half an hour.
Oh, Harry.
So we're going to have to wrap this one up.
All right.
And we'll discuss it a little more in the contentious argument at the end of this. And we'll be back with Die Hard.
Die Hard!
Expecto Patronum!
All right, guys. See you soon.
And we're back. We're back, baby. Expecto Patronum! We talked about Harry Potter in the last segment. That was lots of fun. But now it's time to talk about John motherfucking McClane. Damn it. Die Hard.
What is led off by one of the best Christmas movies ever.
Oh, yeah.
Ever of all time, dude. Ever.
With 4 spin-offs.
Let's just jump in. Let's just go right to it. First of all, nobody knew who Bruce Willis was if you only watch movies. He had done the sitcom, right? He was doing Moonlighting. Mm-hmm. That was the name of it, right? So this was his first big film. And this was also one of the very first really successful action comedies. Mm-hmm.
It's
and it
fucking
might still
hilarious.
be
It's hilarious.
the definitive action comedy. Like we're just trying to copy Die Hard at this point. Whenever you're making movies like that, right?
It's
All the
funny you should
humor
mention that.
Yeah, hit me.
I have a list. It spawned like rip-offs such as Toy Soldiers, Under Siege, Passenger 57, Cliffhanger, Sudden Death, Skyscraper, the 1996 one. Yeah, it's Die Hard with Anna Nicole Smith.
Yeah,
Executive Decision and Air Force One, and that's just like half the list.
yeah. I mean, it like started a whole genre. And again, I don't think it would work. We're gonna just rave about these movies. I know we all fucking love this shit, but it's one of those magical things. I think Harry Potter. It's one of those magical things when I know that's a bad joke. They found the right actor at the right time with the right script. Alan Rickman was fucking beautiful as the villain. I'm sure we'll get into that as well. But like Bruce Willis is the only reason you watch these movies, right? Especially after number one, you're tuning back in to see what the fuck is happening. What inconvenience is John McClane doing now? And why is he going to have to? And as every movie goes on, first he saves the hotel, then he saves the airport, then he saves New York City, then he saves the world.
Yeah, you have to. Well, you know what? They did a good job because you have to one up yourself a little bit. You have to scale up to. I mean, the first one, it's a huge terrorist attack that the first one is basically doing. The second one, I mean, go for the fucking moon. Like they tear this entire, not just the airport, the entire like 5-mile radius around the airport. They get in a snowmobile machine gun fight. So all of a sudden they're at an airport, then they go to a church, and then they're like in this. They have sucked every juice out of that lemon.
The most self-aware piece of dialogue ever, as well. Like when he's running through the airport, and he's like, "How can the same thing happen to the same guy twice?"
yeah, and I love how that's
what
in
we're all
voiceover.
thinking, and they just put it right there for you.
It's such a funny shot. He's standing there. He's just standing completely still, and he's like, "How could the same thing happen to the same guy twice?" And then he runs out of frame. It's like, we really need this in there so that everyone will know this is ridiculous.
They came back 3 months after shooting, like Samuel L. Jackson insisted, with the motherfucking snakes line.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, yeah, it kind of does feel like a put-in. They were like, we might need to make sure people know that we think this is ridiculous too. But honestly, they have fun.
The reminder, though,
I think it all comes down.
A reminder that 4 and 5 are part of the series, by the way, because this first trilogy is incredible. And if they had stopped there, I don't know where we would rank it, but
I don't know.
We'd all be happy.
A Good Day to Die Hard,
Die
bro.
Hard.
Really, A Good Day to Die Hard. Came out on
Die Hard with a
Valentine's Day,
Vengeance is fun.
2013.
Die Hard with a Vengeance is fun. That
Die
is
Hard
the third
with a
one. I
Vengeance.
agree with you. Samuel L. Jackson's. But Live Free or Die Hard is a strong fourth movie, dude. That is the one where
It is
the
a strong fourth
Independence
movie.
Day
It's-
one.
Yes,
I
it's
think
on
it's
the
much
first
better
one.
than
It's like-
5.
As I said, well, everything is.
Okay. Has a 15% Rotten Tomato rating.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yes, and that's high.
Dave, let loose.
What you saying, Dave?
Dave, go for it.
I bought this box set, and I was like, cool, I want all these. I've seen 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll get around to 5 eventually, and I just let it sit. And it wasn't until we were doing this that I saw 5 for the first time.
Yeah.
And it is a fucking travesty.
It's terrible. It's so bad. I know it's so bad. Why is it in Moscow? Okay.
Giant Courtney
it's-
really
it's
thought
like-
this was going to be it. He was like, I am going to be the next Bruce Willis.
I know, the poor bastard. But it's like, there is. I'll get to later, like all the things that were wrong with that film.
Uh-huh.
But it's like they were trapped in a skyscraper in 1, trapped in an airport in 2, trapped in a city in 3, loosely trapped in America in 4. I'll go with you. What the fuck was 5? They're not trapped anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an excuse. No. You are totally fucking right. It is an excuse. It becomes
And you
kind
know
of
what
a
the worst
caricature
irony
of
is?
itself.
The worst irony of that is that was the only one specifically written as a Die Hard sequel. All the rest of them were converted from books or other screenplays that weren't intended to be a Die Hard sequel.
Oh,
And I have
that's
the
so
list
funny.
here. Die Hard itself is actually based on a book called Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe.
Yeah, I knew that.
Die Hard 2, based on 58 Minutes by Walter Wagner. Die Hard 3 was a film called Simon Says. It was meant to be an independent film by itself. And they co-opted it for a Die Hard thing, which was a brilliant decision in my opinion, because 1 and 3 are my two favorites.
3 is so great.
And even Die Hard 4 was a screenplay based on a John Carlin article, A Farewell to Arms, about cyber warfare, which was supposed to be the movie WorldWar3.com.
Nice.
Wow,
And
I saw that in the opening credits. Yeah.
Yeah, that fell to pieces because of I think it was around the same time as 9/11. And they weren't really going to put something out like that, so they shelved it, and then they years later turned it into Die Hard 4.
Wow.
Good thing
And
Die
the
Hard
fifth
2
one
was
was
before
actually
9/11.
I'm glad they did, because like it was a solid entry. You're right, it's a solid entry. 5 is really the only weak one.
Good thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Good thing Die
it
Hard
is,
2 is
too.
before 9/11, because I would have never gone to an airport if I had seen that movie. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's like when I saw Jaws and didn't go in the
Yeah,
water
exactly.
for
It
6
was
months.
really the same thing.
Yeah.
1 and 3 are the best, right?
All right.
Or 1 and 3 are the best.
Uh,
All right, go fuck
I
yourself.
don't
I don't need. Just
know.
shut up. I don't want to hear it. Okay, I'm gonna tell you something about 3.
I mean, I had years to love 3
Okay,
before 4
I
turned
grew up.
up,
I grew up
so-
in the '90s. Die Hard with a Vengeance is low key one of, if not my favorite action movie, because it was on TV all the time. It came out in '95, but throughout the rest of the '90s, it has Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson, two of the biggest movie stars on the planet. And for some reason, it was always on cable TV, especially the sequence in Tompkins Square Park. I've definitely seen that sequence at least 10 times in my life. All the Fort Knox jokes. There are a lot. Like I live in the city now. We all 3 of us do. When assuming we'll go back when coronavirus hasn't wiped out the entire planet. But whenever I'm stuck,
where's John McClane?
whenever I'm stuck going between the park on the Traverse, I'm like, no, the fastest way downtown is through the park. And I just picture my cab going like off the road and into the park. The fastest way downtown is on 9th Avenue. I remember these things. Wall Street, Fort Knox, like all of it. The FDR going north. And it's like, oh, they don't allow trucks going north. Like I know that now from seeing it in the 90s. It is honestly,
Die Hard taught me these things.
it is one of my favorite Samuel L. Jackson performances. The white guy, black guy, buddy cop, they have their differences. Like for me, it wasn't White Man Can't Jump. It was this movie. It was the first time that I was like, oh, this is these interactions are tricky. I had no idea. It's honestly,
He didn't say "Hey Zeus."
it's one of my
He said "Hey Zeus."
it is one of my
You know what your problem is? You're a racist.
What? It is one of my
Yeah,
favorite
dude.
Samuel L. Jackson performances. He just grabs the police department by the balls. He is so good. Half the goddamn city just called 911. One of my favorite lines. Elvis Duran of the Z Morning Zoo is the guy that he calls. I woke up with Elvis Duran every single day. Like all this. And by the way, John knows this. I don't know if Dave knows this. One of my favorite actors in the entire world, in the history of film. John and I came up with a list. We thought it was going to be a podcast. It was about 6.5 hours long, so we never did anything with it. On that list, I had Jeremy Irons in my top 10 of favorite actors of all time. I love Jeremy Irons
No one has
so
ever
much.
worn. No one has ever worn a blue wife beater better
Oh my god, those
than
sunglasses.
Jeremy Irons in the last half of Die Hard with a Vengeance.
The
dude.
way-
He takes that jacket off and leaves it off for the rest
Yeah.
of the movie. That tank top is incredible.
You don't see him for an hour,
I mean, I think
and you just hear his voice on the phone.
the thing that really sells me on the first 3 as well is they're thoughtful action movies. There's subplots and character development, and like in the first one, it's literally just him versus the terrorist with a voice to talk to.
Single set piece too.
And they have ups and downs, and it's like you get character development from the ground, you get character development from him. It's a
All right.
level you don't see in action movies.
It's
often.
single set piece. It's so great.
Listen-
One night, one set piece. It's great. All you need is a compelling
It's
person.
24 before 24.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
It's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's that same kind of thing. Like I always thought of what's his name? What's Sutherland? Kiefer's name?
Kiefer Sutherland.
Jack.
What's his
Yeah.
character's name? Anyway, Jack. Yeah, I always thought about Jack. But I always thought about John McClane when
Jack
I watched
Bauer.
24. You're totally right. All right. I did rewatch most of these. I did not watch the 5th one.
Same. It's just, I
Listeners,
saw
I
it
will
on
admit to
Valentine's
that.
Day one year.
There's a
Never
5th
forget.
one.
But I watched 1 through 4, and I had a great fucking time. Although I will say, as we have been talking about all these franchises, of course, I'm just constantly, as I'm watching all these movies each week, just trying to think like, why are these better or worse than these other franchises? Rewatchability, Anyway, so watching these, I do think there was an intense shift, and I'm glad you read out that list, Dave, because I totally forgot. I feel like I knew that at one point about how most of them were written to be something else. There's a big shift from 2 to 3, and it's that his wife is no longer in the picture. So he's not doing it for his wife. They are totally divorced, or not divorced. They've been separated for a year at that point. And it's mostly about John McClane in the scenario. Whereas, if I'm being honest, my favorite part about 1 and 2 is that he's doing all of it to save his wife. Now, I don't know if that would be considered like misogynistic nowadays, like to say that, but I don't know. I feel like it does lose a little bit as it goes on, and we just keep seeing John McClane in a very intense, inconvenient scenario where he's the guy who has to fix it. I do say it might redeem itself. I love that section in 4 where, and with not with a Vengeance, was the 4 that Live Free or Die Hard, where him and what's the kid's name? Justin Long, they're in the car, and Justin's like, how the fuck did you do that? Like, are you used to that? Have you killed people before? And they have that little speech where Bruce Willis says, like, nobody else is going to do it. So that's why we're doing it, because I have to do it. And Justin Long says, and that's why you're that guy. And then they bring it in at the end after Justin Long steps up. That's why you're that guy. So there is a little redemption for the character, that it doesn't matter if it's for his wife or for the country or for the world. He is that guy no matter what. He's going to fix it. But if I'm being real, I do think it loses some of its emotional stakes.
Killed a helicopter with a car.
I know. I mean, it's just like one of the coolest things of all time. But it does loses some emotional stakes for me as the series goes on, because he is not held accountable emotionally.
Holly was still present. They were constantly telling him to call her.
Yeah,
and like
she's a voice on the phone.
He also didn't choose to do that in 3.
Yeah, but
he was forced into it.
Yeah,
in 3.
he wanted her back, but
I know. But like it's like Fast and the Furious. I'm trying to think of other like shameless action movies, action comedies, the Marvel movies, which we haven't gotten to yet. The thing that makes them elevated to much more than just action movies is when there's actually something to get emotionally invested in. I will say, when I was watching number 3 this past time, Saving the Kids, no, it was definitely something, but I just kept thinking about how, my God, there were a lot of guns. That was one thing that kept standing out to me. There was a whole lot of shoot 'em up gunfighting in 1, 2, and 3, and 4.
Way more in 2. 2 was
I didn't watch 5 again.
2 is wild.
I think the thing I liked the most about, the thing that sold it the most for me about 3 was that there were repercussions from 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
A lot of this could have happened at any point at any time, but he was specifically targeted because of what happened in 1.
That's cool.
I do really love that moment when Jeremy Irons says, "You're right. He was an asshole. You got his number."
Yeah.
He's talking about his brother. Oh, let's talk about this really quickly. I want to ask you guys. Harry Potter, Die Hard, I can't not think about it. Alan Rickman and Dumbledore have the same fall. They both have that great shot where they're both falling. Have you guys heard the story of Alan Rickman's
They
fall?
also do it again in 5, Die Hard 5. They do the same shot.
So good, too.
When the bad guy goes off the roof.
Fucking love it.
No, it wasn't. It was like, oh, God, you're trying to be, I don't know what.
And it just
I've
doesn't
heard
work.
the story. John, tell the story. I've heard it. It's good.
So Alan Rickman, they had done a few takes, and they couldn't get the fear in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So the director goes up to the stunt coordinator and says, "Let go at 2, not 3." So they counted out action. 1, 2, they drop him.
Yeah.
And that is the real look on his face of terror as he was released too soon. And it's fucking beautiful.
Well, because it's in slow-mo, so like it has to be deep. It has to really be guttural. Back to...
How good is he in the first one?
I mean, honestly, there
Rickman.
is no villain that you root for more, want to know more information about, but he has to die at the end more than Alan Rickman. I can't. The voice, the presence, the prowess.
Iconic, dude.
And I think Jeremy Irons does a
What
really
is Hans Gruber's story?
And Jeremy Irons does a really good job with it in the third. He does a really good job in the third one of having similar reactions on the phone. Like, I think John McClane says at some point, he's like, "Yeah, why don't I go ahead and take my truck and ram it up your ass?" And Jeremy Irons is just like, "How colorful." And it's like, it's exactly what Alan Rickman would have done.
Yes.
The same responses. Of course, the German accent just takes everything up a notch, like, with the two of them.
You know, this movie is iconic when Jack, Alec Baldwin's character on 30 Rock, has a quote
Oh yeah.
And Alexander wept, for there were no worlds left to conquer. Hans Gruber, Die Hard.
Oh, it's so good.
I mean, there's even it's even generated Harry Potter's generated memes too, but this one is the most famous one. Is it's not Christmas until Hans Gruber goes off Nakatomi Tower.
So good. By the way,
The LA
companies
thing.
never have your company party on Christmas Eve. I know they just closed the deal. Don't do that to your. Come on, it's Christmas Eve. Don't make these people go to work.
I know.
Yeah,
I know they just sealed the
Dude,
deal. But
his
come on.
limo driver.
Mm.
The limo driver is hilarious. When he's dancing to the hip hop and in the background you see the car
Yep.
fucking flying off the building and shit.
Argyle.
Oh my
Argyle.
God. It is so
funny
tight.
story. This is one of my biggest brushes with fame. Actually, involved Die Hard. I was the guy who plays the cop at the bottom, who's
Carl
talking the whole
Winslow?
movie. Yeah,
Reginald
From
Bell
Family
Johnson.
Matters?
Shout out. He's so
Yeah,
good.
Reginald Bell Johnson. I was going to a wedding out in Long Island City, and we caught a train out there and got an Uber to the church. And the guy that picked us up in the Uber to take us to the church, I kid you not, was Reginald's brother.
What? Did he look just like
Yeah.
him?
He did.
Just-
He looks so much like him, and we had all these wonderful stories he told us while we were driving to this wedding in the snow.
Does he
It
know?
was a cool moment.
Does Reginald Bell Johnson know?
Gotten to
It's the
family, guys.
closest I've got to anyone famous.
Does he
Really.
know
Let me talk to
how
the famous
much-
people.
Does Reginald Bell Johnson know how much he meant to us? That paternal when he's the only one talking to John McClane and they're having the emotional thing. Every movie fucks this up. Every action movie tries to sneak in. It's like, by the way, here's my emotional backstory. I'm going to say this now to alleviate some of the stress of the action that just happened and set up the action in the future. And I want the audience to root for me more. And the other character goes, I see what you're saying. Witty comment reaction to that. More exposition. Let's get on to the final sequence. This is the point of the movie in a way. The way that connection that the two of them have and the fact that they bring it up in the second movie and the way they do it is so realistic enough for this kind of movie. And the jokes, the patter between the two of them, it's it is some of the best, considering they never actually share a moment they never share a moment until the very end of the first one when they don't even speak to each other until you see the smoke coming out of Reginald Bell Johnson's sweet pistol.
It's touching, dude.
It's really touching.
The buddy comedy. I mean, they fucking nailed it. Again, that's what I'm saying. I feel like the first one they had enough emotional stakes. I know it's a comedy, an action comedy, but you cared a lot about their relationship.
You did, yeah. And the thing that gets me about number 5 that pisses me off so much, I'm pretty sure they tried to do it again.
Yeah.
And I would love to get the screenplay from 1 and the screenplay from 5 and lay them over each other. And I'm almost willing to bet the beats line up exactly. They've copied the exact beat structure from the first movie.
Yeah.
But just fucking failed abysmally.
Take Deadpool for another weird off-color example, where it's they really only had one or two. The Deadpool had 2, but this was one set piece, one battle. Deadpool had 2. And it's I got an idea, rather than overcomplicate it, which is definitely my biggest fault with 2, even though I do really like 2, with 30 minutes to go, I was can you just fucking get there? What is going on? Why are we still fighting? Why are there's new complications and a new site and more machine guns are really exhausting. People making action
Which
movies.
one were you talking about? 5?
No, I was talking about 2.
2.
Just the machine gun, the machine gun, it's so exhausting to just hear those bullets and watch people fly and you're where are they right now? What's going on? And whether it was in the airport terminal or at the church or by the planes or on the runway or in the baggage, it's just so much hecticness. They did course correct really well going from 1 to 3. So that would be my biggest complaint with 2. So what I would recommend, back to Deadpool and Die Hard 1, come up with the perfect sequence that's essential, the perfect fight sequence that's essential, and then try to flesh it out maybe from the inside that way. Because I think some of these action movies, and I think 2 is the fault, they had too many characters. They had the NYPD blue guy, but then they also had the other guy that was taking control of the tower. They just had too many important people in too many different spots, and there was no way they were going to wrap that up. There's no way they were going to wrap that up seamlessly. So in 3, even though they didn't have even though they didn't have Holly in 3, they were able to get back to single thing. Terrorist has a subplot, but John McClane, he's stringing him along, bombs. It was so much easier to follow. It was so much simpler.
The buddy comedy.
Him and Samuel Jackson, man, that relationship's awesome.
It really is. I got a big kick watching it this time, all of them. How every single time he kills someone in a fun way, and especially the final murder, it always cuts to him and he's just laughing.
Yeah,
He's just like cracking himself up over how awesome it is that he just
Oh my
fucking
God.
did that. When Justin Long in Vengeance, when he's like, "Did you see that?" He's like, "I just see it. I just fucking did it."
In 3, when he's in the dump truck, the garbage truck, and he asks the driver, like the actual truck driver, he's like, "Hey, you got a truck driving suit?" And he puts it on, and he's walking up to the Germans, and he's like, "Hey, we got a report of a big fat guy in a red suit," and then he just boom, 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 and just shoots them. And then the guy gets out of the car. He's like, "Wait, are these guys dead?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like smiling. And he just gives the clothes back like it's totally normal. He's like, "Yeah, go ahead and do me a favor." Yeah, it's so funny. Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, he
I
does.
mean, he was a New York
killing
truck driver.
people.
He was
Yeah.
a New York truck driver. Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't seen
He's,
death.
he's seen that before.
Very intelligent New York truck driver. Chuck A. Arthur.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, also 5 is the Die Hard 5 is the only one where he doesn't kill the villain at the end. And I don't think I'm spoiling it, but like,
Oh,
of course,
yeah.
Jai Courtney does. And I feel like the first thought in my mind was, are these motherfuckers doing an attempt at a Shia LaBeouf fucking handover film?
Yes, they are. Yes, I think they definitely
Wait,
were.
Shia was over.
Although,
So
you know
Shia was
what's
over
crazy?
too because he also
'Cause
tried to get the Indiana Jones series. So he's over too.
Yeah, I know. But I love Jai Courtney. I thought he was great in Suicide Squad, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
For what he played. But he is not fucking John McClane.
It's not John McClane. They did need to hang it up though, and I'm just gonna give a shout out. It's not Die Hard, but Bruce Willis fucking. I love that he followed these up with the Red series.
Red's
Yes.
I fucking
Red's fine.
love those movies, dude. It's like John McClane that had a little more training, so it's cool that they kind of went into those. Anyway,
And retired.
and fucking yeah, I'm back.
Um,
They pulled me back. They can't pull me back.
Order favorites.
What do you guys? Which one is? Yeah, which one is your favorite? Definitely number one, right? Number one is your favorite, right? Are you fucking crazy? Are you kidding me? Number one's not your
No,
favorite?
I think number 3
Three
is my favorite.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3-1-4.
Number 3
I'm
has
with
the
Dave.
second
3-1-4-2.
lowest tomato rating.
3-1-4-2.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
pie.
yeah, no. But here's what 3 has. If you look closely, it has a 51% critics, 86% audience score, or 76. It has a much higher
Wow.
audience score. That's one of those movies where it was not ahead of its time because that's obviously not the case because it's the third movie in the
Because
series.
Sam Jackson,
But-
right? Because Sam Jackson.
That's one of those
Yeah,
things where they just
he
didn't
nailed
realize.
it.
Maybe the critics went in with, you know what? Critics are tricky, right? They're finicky, and also I think they're right. Look at Oscar season; like everybody just goes with the flow. So maybe they just were reading the tea leaves or something. Like it doesn't make any sense why
Also,
audiences liked
what-
it so much better than critics.
What year was that made?
95.
What year was Die Hard 3?
95. It came out in 95.
95, and it had CG composited graphics in
Yeah.
it.
Oh, cool.
Like that's when he went to Harlem with the
Fuck
sign
yeah, Harlem. Yeah.
with the giant
Don't
N
say
word
it.
on it.
Please
And
don't say it.
I'm not going to say it. Jesus, that's not cool, man.
How did they put that in a movie? How did they do that?
Yeah, I mean, well, they certainly wasn't. They certainly weren't going to put it on a billboard out on the street in New York City because
Jesus.
you just don't do that. And so they CG'd that in afterwards. He was actually just wearing a straight white billboard, like a
That's
board.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
I love 3 for other, and I just love this. Honestly, it reads like a Clancy novel or something. Like the point A to point B to point C, where you have to follow them, do this. But then there's like, is John McClane doing his heist thing? There's also who is the terrorist? What is he doing down in Wall Street with blowing up in the Fort Knox? How do they get the things out of Fort Knox? What's going on with the bomb in the school? Like it reads like a crime novel to me, and I really like that. Whereas 1, again, the single set piece is awesome, and it's great. Stay true to it. That's cool. But for me, it's just like a fun. It's not. It doesn't use my brain at all. Not that 3's a complicated movie, but it just adds a little bit more of just as Simon says, just the riddle element. I think is really enticing for me.
that was the one line I liked in 5, and it was like, "What? This is about money?" And he's like, "It's always about money."
Yeah, they always say it's
Yeah.
like you think money matters
always
while they're
about
trying to
throwback
take
to-
money.
It was a throwback to every single
yeah.
Die Hard movie.
The first
before
one, it's like it's not about money; it's about power. But we're going to go ahead and take the $160 million worth of bail bonds or whatever. It's like
no, it was always about the
of course
money.
there's always money is power. Like, come on, get out of here.
Yeah.
How do you think they're flying that helicopter out? You think they're paying with handshakes?
It's almost every movie they kill a helicopter in some way, shape, or
The
fashion.
third one,
too.
it almost goes too long, but the way they blow that helicopter up is perfect. I was like,
Yes.
please don't
I
have.
don't know. Number 4.
4's cool, man.
Yeah, 4 was good. 4 was
Yeah,
good.
when he takes it out with the car. I mean, that's Did you just take out the helicopter with? Justin Long says, "Did you
Okay.
just kill that helicopter with a car?"
With a car. Yeah. In 5, the boss fight at the end is with the helicopter, basically.
Yeah, yeah. The
It's
boss
like
fight,
it's like that.
obviously.
It's like Four's helicopter's brother
God.
came back for fucking revenge.
Okay. So Alan Rickman, number one, supporting character. For me, obviously Jeremy Irons is 2. Any other shout outs? You got NYPD Blue in 2 does a really good job, although he's a pain in the ass the whole movie. That's what the hell is it? Dennis Franz. In Die Hard 1, the other cop is the guy from Paul Gleason, who's the cop. I forget what he's in. You've also got the guy from Shawshank Redemption in 2, the one who's
Maggie Q in 4.
the janitor.
General Samuel L. Jackson. Like, give me some rankings. What do you think about these supporting? Because great supporting casts.
I really dug Maggie Q in 4.
Maggie Q, cool. And
Yeah,
Justin Long. Shout out to
was
Justin
good.
Long
Also,
as the nerdy
also
guy.
4 has one of my favorite shots as well, which is a stunt car shot. During the car chase, they actually have a camera on like a flatbed, and the car comes out around the around the car, and the camera pans around and comes in behind the car. It's one of the most amazingly choreographed shots I've seen.
Nice.
Wow.
Hmm.
I think I'm gonna go Alan Rickman, Samuel L. Jackson, Justin Long, and then Jeremy Irons. That's my supporting actor list.
Dave.
I think I'm actually agreeing there. I'm gonna agree on that one.
I don't know. I feel like Sam is so good in it. He's just,
I mean,
it can't top Alan.
Honestly, just the 3 of them: Rickman, Jeremy Irons, and Alan. That's hard. And Jeremy Irons.
Justin
and,
Long did do a really good job, though. I
Sam.
was surprised at how much I liked Justin Long. He was perfect for it. He was really
I mean,
well
he
cast.
was an inch away from being a mega like nerdy star crossover type. Obviously, he had the Apple commercial. He was huge in that 10-year span.
Yeah.
But he was.
I'm sure he has a very nice house now.
He
I
has
mean, Justin Long, if you're listening,
very
we'd
nice
love to
house,
come over.
Very nice house. But he was.
Have
he
you
was
seen
very
This Is
close
the
to
End?
being
Pandemic.
infamous, the way that Bruce Willis is.
Have you seen This Is the End?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Where they like comment on it on his like heyday. Apparently he like walked away. He like stopped doing those kinds of
That's
roles.
fair.
He didn't want to do them
That's
anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, he got fucking paid for Die Hard 4. You know he made millions of dollars on that
I
motherfucker.
don't know. I
And
don't
good on
know.
him.
These
He
movies are
did
tricky.
a great job.
These movies are tricky. I don't know.
I mean, if he did, good on him.
I mean, those kinds of
All
movies,
right.
when
I
you
feel
have
like-
the built-in IP, a lot of times the pitch is, I'm going to underpay you, but you're going to be in a movie that's going to be seen by everybody, so you'll be more valuable to other franchises. Like, it's
All right.
possible that he didn't make $1 million for Die Hard 4.
Here's our last question, and then we can cut out.
Okay.
What is your favorite yippee-ki-yay motherfucker? What's your
First,
favorite boss killer?
Number 1, for sure.
It's the first
The
one.
second, at the end
Yeah.
of the movie. The end of the movie.
Yeah. The last time he says it. The first one is wonderful. I fucking love number 2, you guys, when he lights up the fuel on the runway
Yeah,
and it blows up
that's
the
cool.
airplane. And that's pretty fucking cool too. I remember when I saw that when I was a kid and I was like, can that really happen? That is awesome.
Right.
I immediately poured hairspray all over my driveway
cool.
and like tried to light shit with it. Come
That's
on.
absurd.
It's funny,
John's
scenes
parents,
like that
there's a parental
inspired-
advisory.
An actual yeah.
No, that happened.
Scenes like that inspired an actual quest in the game Borderlands 2. You get a quest where you have to blow up someone's helicopter, and you go and blow up the helicopter, and there's a voice that comes onto your radio and says, "Yeah, when you blow it up, set the charges and then walk away in slow motion. It'll look really cool."
He does a lot of.
And that happens, and you get an achievement.
What's your favorite explosion in Die Hard? The unnecessary,
God.
extraneous,
Okay,
unjustified
we've hit the bottom. We've hit the
explosion.
Oh,
bottom.
man, we're reaching out.
The entire
There's
rooftop.
so many things explode in these movies that don't have fuel in them. there are firebombs everywhere. Come on, there are firebombs everywhere in these movies, and there's no reason why most of them should explode.
the plane 1 and 2.
All right.
The plane 1 and 2. I mean, that is epic.
The plane is really good. All right, we have to wrap this up and get on to deciding, because this is going to be hard from the sound of it, which one of these is going to move on.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back.
We're back.
It's time for the deliberation. We have Harry Potter And
Ooh.
all 8 movies versus the 5 Die Hard movies. Bruce Willis, the franchise, John McClane. Whew.
Yeah.
Dave, tell me where your head and your heart is at right now. What are you thinking? What's moving on?
Well, it was. I mean, this again was a tough one because it's 2 movie series I really love, like Harry Potter. Is it 8 films or 7 films?
8.
7 books, 8 films.
Oh, okay, cool.
There's
cool.
a 7 part 1, 7 part 2.
Yep. Now you're right. I'm like, did I miss a film? No, I didn't. I've seen them all. But I've watched these and rewatched these so many times. It's really good, and like I love that everything, like every character that's introduced is a piece of your puzzle. There's no superfluous extras, and they deal with magic, love, death, dropping out of school, rising evil, and time travel in one series. It has everything for everyone, and like it gets a little more intense as it goes along. I like that too. I'm a grown up.
Oh my god, congratulations.
Buzz yourself.
Thanks.
Buzz yourself.
Thanks.
Buzz yourself.
Second star to the right, baby. Keep going.
Okay. You could almost do another set of movies of these from Voldemort's perspective. It's like, like they did with Half-Life. Like you play Half-Life and then like you play through and then you play Half-Life Blue Shift and you're a different character, but the same thing is happening just in a different section of the building.
Do you feel bad
And
for Voldemort?
I feel like we need another set of movies from Voldemort's perspective.
Or Tom Riddle.
And there'd just be like all these fucking tirades and exploding
Tom
henchmen.
Riddle.
Poor Tommy.
Like my favorite character is McGonagall.
Oh yeah, sure.
Believe it or not, yeah, she has some of the best lines. Like,
Protect
she comes
our
in
school!
No, she comes in swinging the first one. It's like 5 points will be awarded to each of you for sheer dumb luck.
And she
It's
almost
like,
goes
I'm gonna
Scottish or something with it.
It's a compliment sandwich. It's like I'm going to
Oh, yeah.
compliment you and insult you at the same time. Or like when they're arguing over Voldemort, and he's like, his name's Voldemort, Phileas. You might as well use it. He's going to try to kill you either way.
Dude,
It's
when
like-
she steps in front of Harry, when Harry steps out in the last one, and she steps in front of him and fights Snape, and he jumps out the
Yeah.
window, and she's like, "Coward!" He's like, "Fuck yeah, dude, McGonagall."
No, the way
Yes.
she says it is so funny.
Whenever
So,
she
yeah,
screams
no,
anything,
I-
it's hilarious.
I love them. They have werewolves. They have elves. They have it has everything.
Yeah,
And
The
So,
way
yeah, I-
Snape
I-
comes in and out of being the bad guy.
yeah,
Back
The-
to
like
werewolves
the-
because I just watched 6 where he
the
basically outs
jury
Lupin
is
for being
out on that
werewolf.
guy right to the end.
number 3. Yeah, the first moment you see him when he crawls out of the hole underneath the Whomping Willow, and they're like, "Look, look, look!" and Lupin is transformed, and he immediately protects the kids. He immediately
Mm.
puts his arms around them and stands in front of him. And just God, the way they told that line all the way up until his last memories, it's just man.
And it's
That-
like I love that it's one continuous journey from the beginning right through
Yeah.
to where like you get the rising menace and then the menace comes out swinging in part 4, and from that point it's on and they're on the back foot and they've got to figure out how to defeat this menace that nobody believes is coming because they don't want to. And it's a great continuous story, even from the movie perspective, where they occasionally leave some things out.
Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah, absolutely.
But they have, like, I would say the worst of the series for me is 1, and I even like that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good call.
And then you get to Die Hard, and I love Die Hard. I own Die Hard. I own all 5 of these movies. I love Die Hard 1. I love Die Hard 2 a little bit less. I really, really love Die Hard 3. Die Hard 4 was a very, very good entry. And then you get to Die Hard 5. And
The funeral pyre
Hard
of the Die
5.
Hard franchise.
Die Hard 5 is a fucking travesty.
Man, it's bad.
I mean, we're in the first 5 seconds of this film, and they're using the shepherd tone. And it's like, for anyone who doesn't know what the shepherd tone is, it's a continuous tone that gives the optical illusion of constantly rising to build tension. And they're using this in the first 5 seconds of the fucking movie trying to build tension.
Because there was no emotional, there was nothing, right? It was just,
It was like, we're just looking at some random Russians. We don't know why we should be tense, so we're going to put this tone in there to make you feel tense and tell you what to do.
yep. There's no emotional circumstances.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah,
Dave, you just
But-
really drank those sips. Those were big
but-
sips you just took.
but by the time you get to the end of this franchise, it's
You
reduced
punished
itself.
yourself more than Dobby right now. Or...
Harry Potter.
Somebody give me fucking clothes.
Give this
They're so
motherfucker
good at
clothes.
magic. Why are they punishing
Dave,
themselves? They're
here's a
so
sock.
good at magic.
Take my sock, bitch.
Sorry.
I'm
Oh,
already
a sock
wearing it.
means I'm free.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little... Okay, elfish rights. We love the elves. Oh, sorry, Dave. Finish up.
But yeah, by the time you get to the end of this franchise, it's reduced itself to cliche dialogue and car chases.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I'll just stand up to them for
Basically,
a tiny bit.
to put it plainly, Die Hard 1 through 4 I like. I would rather watch Star Trek fucking Nemesis again than the last movie in this franchise.
Shout out to our last week's episode. Dave, did you just drink a full beer during your segment? You're in charge of the buzzer.
I may have. I basically
You buzzed.
fuck Die Hard
Dave hates
based on
Die
that last
Hard,
movie.
dude.
Harry Potter is going through.
Ah!
Dave,
I love
we're not
Die
even
Hard.
Together right now.
I
Dave's
love-
doing this to himself.
I love all
Therese-
four movies of
Teresa.
the Die Hard.
Therese,
Good Lord have
Therese,
mercy.
Gypsy Flores.
Dave,
come
walk
on.
a straight line.
Fuck it,
Dave's not well.
Harry Potter all the way. Harry Potter
Harry
all the way.
fucking Potter. Jeff,
All right.
hit me.
I didn't even mention the scores.
Oh my god, the score is so oozy. And also, there's something Christmassy. So I started rewatching these in Christmas, and then I went back and started rewatching
Harry
them again
Potters?
for this. There's something about the it's not the Hedwig theme, which is that da 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 da. And then there's like a couple variations that they do on top of that. The like they have these like weird fun like they seem very Christmassy. Honestly, something out of Home Alone. So you have John Williams and Chris Columbus teaming up. Chris Columbus did ask John Williams to score Home Alone, and just in case you guys forgot, John Williams said yes to Home Alone for some reason. Right around the time of Schindler's List, he said,
Those
"Oh yeah, I'll do
kids.
Home Alone." Yeah, he was like, "I got ET in the bag. What's next? Schindler's List? Okay, something else. What offsets that a little bit? Home Alone?
Yeah.
Perfect."
Kevin
Let's do it.
McAllister.
Anyway, so
I can
honestly,
just use the
score,
same
there's
music for
something-
all of them. Yeah.
I mean, and it's not just the jingle bells that they obviously add, but like, anyway, okay, so yes, fucking shout out to the scores. Although, come on, Ode to Joy being done, and then when the Germans come in,
And
they do
done
Ode to
and
Joy in a
done.
minor key. They
Oh,
just make
Jesus.
Ode to Joy minor. Did you notice that, John?
Yep.
It's just a fucking minor key Ode to Joy.
Shout out, if we're going to
funny.
talk about the scores,
That's
just
so
really
funny.
quickly, Andre Desplat's scores for the last 2 or 3 are magnificent.
Yeah.
I love the dark stuff. I love his
One of our
themes at the
greats.
end. That's tough to fall into John Williams' shoes, and he fucking fills it up quite nicely. Anyway, keep going. Keep going.
Right. So we talked about this last week when we talked about Star Trek having 13 films go up against Back to the Future, which has 3. And my argument in favor of keeping the rankings the way they were is, look, if you want to make money, go ahead, knock yourself out. But if it sinks the franchise, that's on you. But I, of course, understand you wanting to make money. And who am I to tell you shouldn't make a movie that's going to make $1 billion? I think was my quote. So with the Die Hard movies, the first one quadrupled its budget. Of 28 to 139. The second one, $70 million budget, 239. So you're talking about like tripling budgets, basically. And you know what?
So
A Good Day to
just
Die
made a
Hard,
profit.
the fifth Die Hard movie, tripled its budget. $92 million budget.
saw it
I don't
in
know what the
theater.
marketing costs were. Yeah, it made $300 million. So the IP suffered.
Yeah.
It drew a plateau. If they made a 6th movie, it would not have made money. It's okay to find that. They all bought houses with making the 5th movie, and that's great. But as far as the series goes, that's the risk you take, and it suffered, so they had to end it there. Harry Potter honestly could have made the 6th book into 2 movies and the 7th book into 2 movies, make 9 movies, made another $1 billion, and they chose not to. And I think as far as the series goes, they win for that. It's currently right now the 3rd highest grossing franchise worldwide. Domestically, I think Bond actually is higher. And so right now it's Marvel Cinematic Universe, specifically the Avengers series, because they separate Avengers and X-Men. The Avengers series is double and number 2. So it's not even fair. They have multiple $1 billion movies. They have a $2 billion movie. It's so unfair. They have two $2 billion movies. Star Wars just edges Harry Potter. Harry Potter is number 3, and it's just these 8 movies. That doesn't count Fantastic Beasts. Context, ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's Harry Potter for sure, for all the reasons I said. I don't think there's much else there's not many other notes that I wanted to say other than I love Snape. The fact that he's looming, and actually, I don't know, but in the movies, they do a good job of kind of letting him slide a little bit, where you don't see him very much, and then he comes back. In the books, he's always there, and I think they do a pretty good job of that in the movies. And honestly, I was curious going into the sixth movie. I really expected the fight. They cut the battle sequence out at the end of 6, and everybody knows that. I don't mind it in rewatch, knowing that 7 and then 8 are coming. That it's basically a stark ending. They just killed Dumbledore, spoiler, and then that's it. Everybody saw that movie and everybody was pissed. Everybody's fucking pissed. But Harry Potter played the long game, and ultimately in the rewatchability, it's really cool. There was a huge battle, but we just had a huge battle at the end of 5. It would have been the same people fighting, minus Sirius Black. So it's like ultimately it's cool that Snape just stepped up to the plate and did that. But I was really worried about the backstory when you see his memories and it's like, oh, he loved Lily the whole time. I really didn't think that was going to land. And Alan Rickman really fucking pulled that off. Because the 6th book is low-key one of my favorite books because you're reading Harry's journey. He's also a little bit of a loner. You also realize that like school isn't really what he thought it was going to be. It wasn't what we thought it was going to be. Wizarding school for 7 years. Oh, that sounds really fun. And yet here's Harry, and it's like Voldemort's going to come. It's kind of like, honestly, it's not too dissimilar from coronavirus. You're like, I don't think there's going to be a next year. They say it early on, right? Draco basically says like, I don't think we're going to be here next year. And so the whole time it's like, this is how Hogwarts is ending. And while
the
he's
other thing
reading this journal,
I also love is Draco's journey. Because by the time he gets to the point where he realizes he's in over his head, you really feel for the guy. Like you hate him for the first like 5 movies, and
they did a great job of that in the series with the parents ushering him back home at the end of 7 part 2. They did what a journey from 1 where his father, aka the villain from The Patriot, shout out, Jason Isaacs. The way that they take Draco, what a journey. Everybody has
Who
a
was
great
Jason
journey.
Isaacs supposed to play?
Anyway,
in a movie recently we were talking about, it was supposed to be Jason Isaacs. You said it on the podcast. Who were we fucking talking about? Sorry to pipe in, but who were we talking about?
It was last week.
It was last week. The Star Trek versus Back to the Future. Who the fuck were we talking about? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Who's he going to be?
Keep going.
I don't know. I just drank a beer and a half bitching out the last movie.
Jason Isaacs came up last week, and we were talking about how awesome he is. Anyway, keep going. Harry Potter.
Right. Yeah. The last thing I want to shout out is endless eternal thanks to the sacrifice. Yes, I know they're all wealthy now, but the sacrifice that the kids made. Ron Weasley, aka Rupert Grint, talked about how he wanted to leave the series because he went back to take finals one year and he didn't even know how to talk to his classmates. He basically realized like on the spot on the day of a test that he lost his childhood, and like his encounter of that as well. Also the fourth movie is when it's when he had that growth spurt. So he basically became a man, and he was like, he had like a Michael Jackson syndrome where he's like, oh my God, I don't have a childhood. So like the sacrifice that these kids made for this series, I mean, kudos. I hope they know that it'll not just the ones that made $100 million.
I'm so thankful.
Neville and
Rupert,
Seamus.
if you're listening, come to New York. I'll take you to Disneyland.
I love you, Rupert.
I'm not even kidding. I will take the guy to Disneyland.
I love you, Ron.
Anyway.
Like, you just keep talking about that light in your heart, and I think she'll come around.
Right. And we know now, like, oh, they make money. They're actors. They can be in whatever movie they want. But they didn't make that choice. The choice was made for them, in a way. And really, they didn't, besides Daniel Radcliffe, the other actors did not make as much money as you think for the first couple. It wasn't until the end. So obviously they have money now, but the sacrifice that they made, that was really, really, really cool. So shout out to them. Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah. I'm voting for Harry Potter, too. Definitely, no doubt in my mind. I'm just going to cut straight to it.
Way to build the suspense there, buddy.
No suspense required. I'm definitely fucking voting for Harry Potter. As I've been watching all these franchises, as I was saying, it becomes more and more clear to me when I know not everybody that's listening will watch them in the same way that we're watching them, where we're critically putting them up against other franchises. I know you don't think of it that way, but I do think that everyone who loves movies, who likes to sit down and rewatch stuff, subconsciously they know why they are rewatching certain things. And when you're talking about comparability between something like Die Hard, which is tons of fun, and something like Harry Potter, there's absolutely no comparison, because one of those franchises has emotional circumstances that are going to take you on a really intense ride. You're not just going to see action. You're not just going to have fun. You're going to be changed. I know that's a little cliche, but that's what you want.
That's true.
Out of big monster franchises, if you're going to commit 8 to 10 plus hours you want something to affect you emotionally. You want to feel like I am different than when I started it. Or if it's not the first time you've watched it, I have gotten that fix of coming into the first one, finishing the last one, and feeling like I went on a really intense emotional ride. And I know
I'll tell you what. I'll let you in on one thing
Yeah.
as well. When I'm working on a project that's like CG intensive, and me and John actually, like, all three of us actually worked on a film that was very CG intensive
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
And there was a lot of times where I was testing stuff, I had to render stuff, and like I was waiting for RAM previews and stuff like that. And one of the series I went through was Harry Potter.
Yeah.
In the, like, just on the side monitor, had that running to keep me going the whole way through, and it was my companion through a certain portion of that journey.
So why do
It-
yeah? So why
it's something you can.
why do you say companion? I love that you use that word because even you just flippantly saying companion, there is an emotional counterpart that you have when you
you're
tap
the-
into worlds like
You're the
that.
fifth. You're the fourth person.
Exactly.
You're the fourth person in the group. You're there with them the entire way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You grow with them. You
Kinda
change
when-
with them. It doesn't.
It's kind of why the other characters don't matter as much, right? It's like you're one of the team. It's like you're rooting for your team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they don't matter as much, but they all have a purpose. Like every
Yes.
single person that you come across has some purpose that comes out at some point.
Yes, because they are them. It's not even because of it is what they do, but it's not because of their archetype. It's not because of some crazy sequence that they are a part of that is very memorable cinematically. It's because of how they fit emotionally into Harry, Hermione, and Ron's life. And you cannot help but feel like you're a surrogate member of that ride. Again, like I was saying earlier about I come to it because I want to have the fun introduction to the world, and I want to have the ending where they finally come through it. When you hit those key points along the way of, man, this is fun, this is getting scary, the world is never going to be the same,
Mhm.
and we may die having to try to fight this. When you finally make it to the end, I don't know, you guys, this week I was thinking a lot about how we said a lot of the same things in Lord of the Rings. We have had a trend going with this franchise face-off where we are every single time consistently leaning on the films that give us more of an emotional fulfillment. And I think
Well, I mean, that's what they're for.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm realizing is that we're having fun watching all these movies. I had fun watching the Die Hards too.
Yeah.
But there is no
Hopefully
comparison.
other people are as well.
Yeah. There's no comparison though. If you're talking about
Shout out to our 2 fans in Japan.
Japan,
Yeah, Japan. What's up?
if you're talking about
Tell us where you're listening
superfluous-
from and how you found us.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, please
Sorry.
reply because I do want to know. But anyway, yeah. So superfluous fun over emotional heroes' journeys, which is most of the really good ones we're talking about, involve very typical hero journeys style storytelling. There's absolutely no comparison. So I'm definitely going Harry Potter, Expecto Patronum. I am House Slytherin. My Patronus.
We're all Slytherins.
My Patronus is a stallion. Get the fuck at me.
I can't remember because I did the test on so many different accounts.
You're
I can't
Slytherin
remember
too,
which
right?
account that I. Yeah.
I was Slytherin.
Three
Yeah.
Slytherins. Get at us.
Did that surprise John? I'm not surprised. Dave, did that surprise you?
No, not really. No.
No, we're all Slytherins.
I
You know
thought it
who else
wasn't
was a
either.
Slytherin?
I really thought it was a Hufflepuff.
Fucking Merlin was a Slytherin motherfucker. So go fuck yourself.
And Harry should have been a Slytherin.
Harry should
He would have had a shitty
next
class.
episode.
It almost was.
Next episode, when we talk about Harry Potter, I really want to get into that with you guys because I think he should have been a Slytherin. That's my only ultimate criticism.
This is like the plot against America. Philip Roth, you need to write Harry Potter as a Slytherin.
I mean, that's the story. She missed her
in the same
opportunity.
house as Malfoy.
That's the
Malfoy's
only
his best
thing.
friend,
That's
not
the
Ron
only
and
thing that would
Hermione.
make that story better.
Okay,
We're gonna get into it though. Harry
we've lost
Potter.
our way.
Harry
We've lost our
Potter
way.
wins. Harry Potter wins. Everybody shout out your favorite charm. Expecto
There's like
Patronum! Superfly!
Okay, that was just John.
He does a Patronum for like 3 movies.
What's
That's
the
his
one
only
that-
charm.
chorus,
What's the one that
chorus
Ginny
that in
screams?
post. We all
What's
shouted
the one
it.
that
Yeah.
Jenny does? That crazy one where she's like super strong and she hits the Death Eaters with it every single time. What's that charm? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? It's like Jenny's charm and it's
Remember.
fucking huge.
I can't remember.
Jenny!
Yeah, I can't remember.
Harry Potter is moving on.
Jenny's just like wiping Harry's mouth every time she's like they that love sequence. They were like they're gonna fall in love. Where do you see?
I'm very happy.
drunk
I think
now.
we're all very happy. I hope everybody at home is very happy. Harry Potter is moving
Yeah,
on.
we gave away which way this was going like 20 minutes ago. I'm sure people aren't listening.
3-0. All right.
Oh,
If they made it through my rant about box office, I'm surprised
No,
that
it's
they're with us till the end.
Jeff, tell me what's happening next week, dude.
Next week, oh my gosh, I am
Oh,
so
no.
fucking glad that you asked me about next week, because next week is going to be a really good week where our 7 seed, the Terminator series,
Okay,
which does
cool.
include the new ones. That does
Does,
include the new
yeah.
ones. I think I saw, what did I see the most recent one with you, John, with Amelia Clark?
I haven't seen that yet. Oh, no, there's another one after that now, isn't there?
What? Oh, shit.
What? The Terminator. Okay, first things first. There's no way we're seeing all of these movies, so we'll have to talk. But it's the Terminator against the MCU Avengers, the MCU Avengers series.
So there are 22 movies.
12 years of Marvel up against 20 years of Terminator.
22
It's actually-
movies
yeah.
of Marvel.
It's also $18 billion in worldwide box office.
I'm nervous. We're gonna upset some
Should
people
be
next
fine.
week.
Yeah.
We are gonna piss some people off next week, dude.
This is our 7 against our 10, so it's
All right.
pretty good.
Well, good luck, everyone.
Yeah, got a lot of watching to do. All right, y'all. We'll see you next week. Have a good time. Peace.